The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their oversized chairs, their attention fixed on the holographic display floating in the center of the room. Today marked humanity's first official contact with the Council, and no one quite knew what to expect. Admiral James Reed stood straight and proud on the deck of his flagship, the HS Defender. At just 200 meters long, it was the largest ship in humanity's fleet. He adjusted his uniform one last time before the transmission began. "This is Admiral Reed of the Human Space Force. We come in peace and seek diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council." The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds before the chamber erupted in laughter. "Is this some kind of joke?" The Grand Counselor's voice boomed through the chamber. His massive, six-eyed face filled the human's view screen. "Where is your actual fleet? Surely these cannot be your warships." Reed's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "These are indeed our ships, Grand Counselor. While compact, they are highly efficient and—" More laughter cut him off. The council members were pointing at the display showing the human fleet. Next to their kilometer-long vessels, the human ships looked like escape pods. "Look at them. They're adorable," someone shouted from the back. "Are they sending their children's toys to meet us?" Another voice called out. The Grand Counselor raised a hand for silence, though his mouth still twitched with amusement. "Admiral Reed, while we appreciate your attempt at contact, the Galactic Council only deals with civilizations that can meaningfully contribute to galactic security. Your vessels appear barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone defense." "With respect, Grand Counselor," Reed replied, "size isn't everything. Our ships incorporate advanced—" Yes, the Grand Counselor waved dismissively. "I'm sure they're very advanced for their size. But look around you, Admiral." The transmission showed views of the various alien ships surrounding the meeting point. Each one dwarfed the entire human fleet. "These are real warships. When you've developed proper vessels, perhaps we can revisit this conversation." On the bridge of the Defender, Lieutenant Walker leaned closer to Reed. "Sir, their smallest support ship is bigger than our entire battle group. Maybe we should." "No," Reed said firmly. "We've earned our place here. Our ships may be small, but they're the product of centuries of scientific advancement. We didn't build them big because we didn't need to." The Grand Counselor was still speaking. "And furthermore, the energy readings from your vessels suggest extremely limited weapons capability. How do you expect to defend trade routes or combat pirates with such minimal resources?" Reed tried one last time. "Grand Counselor, if you'd allow us to demonstrate." "This meeting is over," the Grand Counselor announced. "Return to your space, tiny fleet. Come back when you've learned how to build proper ships." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. Around them, the massive alien vessels began turning away, their engines glowing like small suns. Reed stood motionless for a long moment, his hands clasped behind his back. Finally, he spoke. "Send a message to command. Tell them the Council rejected our application for membership." He paused, then added, "Also inform them that the Council's ships are exactly as inefficient as our simulations predicted. Their size makes them slow, their energy usage is wasteful, and their targeting systems are primitive." "Yes, sir," Walker nodded. "Do you think they'll ever realize their mistake?" Reed turned to look at the retreating alien ships through the view screen. "They will. Sooner than they think." He smiled slightly. "Send another message to command. Tell them to proceed with Operation Swift Response. If the Council won't protect human ships from pirates, we'll do it ourselves." As the Defender and its escort ships turned for home, none of the laughing Council members noticed the detailed scans the tiny human fleet had taken of their vessels. None of them realized that every moment of mockery had only confirmed humanity's theories about galactic ship design being deeply flawed. They would learn soon enough. The pirates would make sure of that. 3 months after the Council's rejection, Captain Mike Thomas stood on the bridge of the HSS Thunderbolt, watching the burning wreck of a human cargo ship drift through space. It was the fourth attack this month. "Rescue operations complete, sir," his first officer reported. "We saved all crew members, but the cargo is gone." Thomas nodded grimly. The pirates were getting bolder. They'd clearly heard about the Council's dismissal of humanity's fleet and saw it as an invitation. His small ship had arrived too late to prevent the attack, just like the previous times. "Play back the attack recordings," he ordered. The holographic display came to life, showing the massive pirate vessel that had struck the cargo ship. Like all alien ships, it was unnecessarily huge and just as slow. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "I've completed the analysis. Their targeting systems took 47 seconds to lock onto the cargo ship. And their weapons," she smiled slightly. "The energy waste is incredible." Thomas made a note in his log. That made 15 separate incidents where they'd gathered data on alien combat capabilities, all showing the same weaknesses. Back on Earth, the response to these attacks was reaching its final stages. In a vast underground facility, Chief Engineer Wilson walked through rows of gleaming new ships. Each vessel was even smaller than the previous generation, but packed with technology that would make the Council's eyes bulge, if they could even spot it. "The new targeting AI is ready," one of her technicians reported. "Testing shows lock-on times of 0.3 seconds. Wilson ran her hand along the smooth hull of the nearest ship and the nano-manufacturing system. "Fully operational. We can repair combat damage in real time." She checked her tablet, reviewing the latest simulation results. The pirates wouldn't know what hit them. Neither would the Council when they finally saw what humanity's tiny ships could really do. In Council space, the Grand Counselor was reading reports of the pirate attacks with growing irritation. Not because he cared about human losses, but because the attacks were disrupting trade routes used by other species. "Perhaps we should send patrols," one of his advisors suggested. "To protect those toy ships," the Grand Counselor scoffed. "They refused to build proper vessels. Let them face the consequences." "But sir, some of these reports are odd. The human ships that do escaped seem to move in ways that..." "In ways that what? Are you suggesting those tiny vessels pose any kind of threat?" The advisor fell silent, but he couldn't shake a growing feeling of unease. Something about the human responses to these attacks didn't make sense. They weren't begging for help. They weren't trying to build bigger ships. They were just watching, gathering data. Meanwhile, aboard the Thunderbolt, Captain Thomas received new orders from command. His ship had been chosen to test the latest upgrades in actual combat conditions. "Engineering reports all systems ready," his first officer announced. Thomas smiled as he read through the specifications of the new systems. The pirates thought they were dealing with primitive, undersized ships. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Set course for the Arcturus trade route," he ordered. "If our intelligence is correct, the pirates will hit the next convoy in that sector within 48 hours. As the Thunderbolt moved silently through space, its small size masking its true capabilities, Thomas thought about the Council's laughter during first contact. Soon, very soon, they would understand why humans had chosen to build small ships. It wasn't because they couldn't build bigger ones. It was because they were smart enough not to. The pirate fleet appeared from hyperspace like a swarm of metal giants. 30 massive ships, each one bigger than a small city, surrounded the human colony of New Hope. Their weapons charged, creating webs of crackling energy between the ships. In the colony's command center, the emergency beacon was already broadcasting. "This is New Hope Colony. We are under attack. Requesting immediate assistance." The pirate commander's face filled every screen in the colony. His scared features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "Surrender now, humans. Your tiny ships can't save you. We have enough firepower to turn this colony into space dust." Word of the attack spread quickly. Within an hour, Ships from various alien species gathered at safe distances to watch. Many brought recording equipment. After all, it wasn't every day they got to see a human colony fall. The Grand Counselor himself arrived in his personal vessel, ready to witness what he saw as the inevitable result of human stubbornness. Perhaps now they'll learn to build proper ships, he muttered to his aides. Then the human response arrived. The gathered aliens burst into laughter. Even the pirates seemed amused. Admiral Reed had brought only 5 ships to face their 30. The human vessels looked like insects next to the pirate fleet. "Is this a joke?" the pirate commander broadcast. 5 tiny ships against our fleet, even for humans. This is pathetic. On the bridge of the HSS Defender, Admiral Reed remained calm. Captain Thomas's Thunderbolt floated nearby, along with 3 other ships of similar size. None of them were longer than 200 meters. None of them showed any signs of fear. "This is your final warning," Reed broadcast to the pirates. "Leave human space immediately." The pirate commander's laughter boomed through the communications channel. "Or what? You'll scratch our paint. Look around you, human. Your entire fleet could fit in one of our cargo holds." Reed switched to a private channel. "All ships, activate combat systems. Remember your training. Let's show them why size doesn't matter in space." Throughout the 5 human ships, hidden systems hummed to life. Nanofactories began producing specialized ammunition. Advanced AI targeting systems connected to each other, creating a neural network across the fleet. Experimental engines powered up, ready to demonstrate what human engineering could really do. "Still waiting for your surrender," the pirate commander taunted. Reed looked at his tactical display. The pirates had arranged their ships in standard attack formation, exactly as expected. Their massive vessels were built to fire devastating broadsides, but they needed time to turn and aim. Time they wouldn't have. "All ships," Reed ordered, "execute Battle Plan Delta. Show them what the tiny fleet can do." The gathered aliens expected the humans to charge forward in a desperate attack. Instead, the 5 small ships simply vanished. "What the?" the pirate commander started to say. The human ships reappeared inside the pirate formation, moving at speeds that seemed impossible. While the massive pirate ships struggled to turn, the human vessels danced between them like water droplets on a hot pan. "Impossible," someone in the alien audience gasped. "Nothing can move that fast." But the human ships were just getting started. Their tiny size, combined with advanced engines, let them pull maneuvers that would have torn larger ships apart. They spun, twisted, and accelerated in ways that defied conventional space combat tactics. The pirate commander's voice crackled with rage and disbelief. "Lock weapons. Destroy them." But the pirates had a problem. Their targeting systems were designed to track large vessels. The human ships were too small, too fast, and too agile. Every time they thought they had a lock, the target was already gone. As the battle began in earnest, the Grand Counselor leaned forward in his chair. For the first time, he wondered if perhaps he had made a terrible mistake in dismissing these humans and their tiny ships. The space around New Hope Colony erupted into chaos as the battle began in earnest. Captain Thomas's Thunderbolt spun through the gap between 2 pirate ships, its size allowing it to pass through spaces the larger vessels couldn't even consider. "Target their engine controls," Thomas ordered. "Show them what our tiny weapons can do." The Thunderbolt's advanced targeting AI locked onto the nearest pirate ship in a fraction of a second. A burst of concentrated energy, no larger than a tennis ball, shot out and struck the massive vessel's engine housing. The pirates had expected a small impact. Instead, the tiny projectile burrowed through their shields and detonated inside the engine room. "Impossible," the pirate ship's captain screamed as his engine cores shut down. "Their weapons are too small to." His transmission cut off as his ship's power failed. The human vessels had studied pirate technology for months. They knew exactly where to strike. Admiral Reed's voice came through the fleet channel. Remember your training. Their size is their weakness. Use the attack patterns we practiced. The 5 human ships moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. Their small size meant they needed far less energy to change direction. While the massive pirate ships struggled to turn their bulk, the human vessels darted around them, striking critical systems with surgical precision. "Sir," Thomas's weapons officer called out, "the nano factories are working perfectly. We're producing new ammunition faster than we're using it." This was humanity's secret weapon. While other species built huge ships to carry massive amounts of ammunition, human vessels created their own specialized rounds using advanced nanotechnology. Each shot was custom-made for its target, designed to slip through shields and armor at their weakest points. The pirate commander watched in horror as his fleet's advantages turned into weaknesses. His ship's huge weapons were useless if they couldn't hit their targets. Their massive shields were designed to absorb heavy fire, not stop the tiny, precise strikes that were shutting down system after system. "This is impossible," he roared. "They're not fighting fair." "No," Reed responded calmly over the open channel. "We're just fighting smart." From his observation post, the Grand Counselor watched with his mouth open as the human ships demonstrated maneuvers he'd thought impossible. They used the pirate ship's own bulk against them, hiding in their sensor shadows, striking from blind spots, and disappearing before the massive vessels could respond. 3 pirate ships were already dead in space, their engines and weapons disabled by precise strikes. 2 more spun helplessly, their navigation systems fried by targeted electromagnetic pulses from the human vessels. "Look at their energy readings," one of the Council's military advisors gasped. "The human ships are barely using any power. They're not fighting with brute force. They're using efficiency and precision." The remaining pirates tried to cluster together for protection, but this only made them easier targets. The human ships slipped between their formation, their tiny size allowing them to exploit gaps the pirates couldn't close fast enough. "All ships, execute final attack pattern," Reed commanded. "Let's end this." The 5 human vessels split up, each targeting a specific section of the pirate fleet. Their movements were precisely coordinated by their linked AI systems, creating a web of attacks that the pirates couldn't counter. More pirate ships went dark as human weapons found their critical systems. Others began powering down voluntarily, their crews realizing the futility of their situation. The pirate commander watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by ships he could barely see on his sensors. Now he understood. The humans hadn't built small ships because they were primitive. They had built small ships because they were better. In the silence after the battle, the pirate fleet drifted powerless in space. 25 of their 30 massive ships had been disabled. The remaining 5 had surrendered, their crews too shocked to continue fighting. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Captain Thomas ran a quick check of the Thunderbolt systems. "Damage report." "Sir," his engineer replied with a hint of pride, "our nano repair systems fixed the minor hull damage faster than the pirates could cause it. We're at 98% efficiency." The watching alien ships had fallen completely silent. None of them could believe what they had just witnessed. The Grand Counselor's personal recorder had captured everything. The impossible maneuvers, the precise strikes, the complete dismantling of what should have been an overwhelming force. "Send boarding teams," Admiral Reed ordered. "Secure the pirate vessels and rescue any prisoners they're holding." The human ships moved with the same deadly grace they had shown in battle, positioning themselves next to the massive pirate vessels. Small boarding craft, even tinier than the warships, attached themselves to the pirates' hulls like remoras on a shark. Inside the lead pirate ship, the boarding team found the crew still staring at their sensor readings in disbelief. The pirate commander himself sat in his chair, watching the tactical replay over and over. "I don't understand," he muttered as human marines secured him. "Our ships are 10 times your size. Our weapons are 50 times more powerful. How did you?" "Size means nothing in space," the marine sergeant replied. Your big ships are just bigger targets. On his flagship, Admiral Reed opened a channel to all watching vessels, including the Grand Counselor's ship. This is why we build small. Every cubic meter we don't use for empty halls and oversized corridors. We fill with technology. Our ships aren't toys. They're the most advanced vessels in known space. The Grand Counselor watched as human boarding teams efficiently secured ship after ship. The tiny human vessels had taken down the most notorious pirate fleet in the sector without losing a single crew member. His military advisor was already analyzing the battle footage. "Sir," the advisor reported, "their efficiency is incredible. The energy needed to move their ships is minimal. Their weapons use smart targeting instead of brute force. Even their life support systems are more advanced. They don't waste power maintaining huge empty spaces." Inside the captured pirate flagship, the human boarding team made another discovery. The massive ship's cargo holds were filled with stolen goods and captured crew from dozens of alien vessels. As the prisoners were freed, many of them stared in amazement at their rescuers. "But you're so small," one alien captive said, looking at the human Marines. "When we saw your ships approach, we thought we were doomed." The Marine sergeant smiled. "Being small just means we have to be smarter." Back on the Thunderbolt, Captain Thomas received a new signal. More pirate vessels had been detected at the edge of the system, reinforcements arriving too late to help their comrades. "Should we engage?" his first officer asked. Thomas watched as the new pirate ships quickly turned around and fled at maximum speed. Word was already spreading through the galaxy. The tiny human fleet wasn't a joke anymore. "No need," he replied. "I think they got the message." Admiral Reed's voice came through the fleet channel. "All ships, form up. We're not done yet. There are more pirate bases in this sector, and now they know we're coming." The 5 small human ships moved into formation, their nanofactories already replenishing their ammunition, their AI systems processing data from the battle to become even more efficient. They had proven that humanity's approach to ship design wasn't just different, it was superior. The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked very different from the meeting 3 months ago. Gone were the laughs and jokes about human ships. Instead, the chamber was filled with urgent whispers and worried faces as the battle footage played again on the main display. The Grand Counselor stood before the assembly, his earlier arrogance replaced by clear concern. "As you can see, we may have made an error in our assessment of human technology." Admiral Reed stood calmly at the speaker's podium, his tiny flagship visible through the chamber's massive windows. The same ship that had helped destroy the most feared pirate fleet in the sector now looked different to alien eyes. No longer a toy, but a deadly weapon of advanced engineering. "Would you explain to the Council," the Grand Counselor asked, his voice humble, "why your species chose this path of development?" Reed nodded. "Simple physics. In space, bigger isn't better. Every extra meter of size means more power needed for movement, more materials needed for construction, more energy needed for shields. We ask ourselves, why build giant ships when small ones work better?" The chamber's main screen showed detailed scans of the human vessels. Alien engineers gasped as they saw the density of technology packed into the small hulls. Where other species use huge spaces for crew quarters and cargo holds, Reed continued, "we use advanced materials and efficient design. Our nano-manufacturing systems mean we don't need massive ammunition storage. Our eye-targeting systems don't need huge power generators because they're designed for precision, not brute force." One of the Council's military experts stepped forward. "But what about ship defense? Surely smaller ships are more vulnerable." Reed smiled. "Computer, show battle damage report." The screen changed to show the Thunderbolt during combat. The aliens watched in amazement as tiny repair robots fixed damage almost instantly. "Our ships are harder to hit because of their size," Reed explained. "And when we do take damage, we repair it immediately. Being small means we need less material for repairs. Everything about our design focuses on efficiency." The military experts studied the figures carefully. These numbers, they're revolutionary. Your ships use 1/10 the energy of our vessels, while achieving better performance in every category. In the back of the chamber, representatives from various species were already sending urgent messages to their homeworlds. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had proven that centuries of traditional ship design were fundamentally flawed. There's more, Reed added. Computer, show the cost comparison. New figures appeared on the screen. The entire human fleet had cost less to build than a single alien battleship. The maintenance costs were even more dramatic. Human ships could operate for years with minimal resource consumption. The Grand Counselor cleared his throat. Admiral Reed, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must admit our grave error. We dismissed your species based on outdated thinking. We failed to see that your different approach to ship design was actually far superior to our own. Reed nodded gracefully. We understand. Change isn't easy. But perhaps now we can work together. There are still pirates out there, threatening trade routes and attacking innocent ships, and our fleet is always happy to help. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't seeking revenge for being mocked. They were offering partnership, sharing their revolutionary approach to space technology with species that had once laughed at them. As the council session ended, the Grand Counselor approached Reed privately. How many more of these ships does humanity have? Reed's smile was diplomatic, but carried a hint of steel. Enough. And we're building more every day. But don't worry. They're all dedicated to keeping the peace, as long as everyone remembers that size isn't everything. Through the chamber windows, the human ships looked different now to every alien who saw them. Not small, not tiny. Just right. 1 year after the battle at New Hope Colony, the galaxy had changed in ways few could have predicted. Captain Thomas stood on the observation deck of the newly established Galactic Defense Academy, watching students from 24 alien species study holographic displays of human ship designs. Remember, he told his class, the key isn't just making ships smaller. It's about understanding why smaller works better in space. The Academy had become the most prestigious military school in known space. Species that once laughed at human ships now sent their best engineers and officers to learn human design principles. Even the building itself reflected the change. No wasted space, no oversized rooms, just efficient design focused on purpose. Admiral Reed walked into the classroom, causing the alien students to stand at attention. He waved them back to their seats with a smile. Report from the border sectors, he announced. Pirate activity has dropped by 90% in the last year. Seems they don't find raiding so appealing when they might run into our patrols. The few pirates still operating had learned their lesson. Any ship larger than 300 meters was now seen as a liability rather than an advantage. The smarter pirate groups had tried to copy human designs, but without understanding the underlying technology, they had failed miserably. In the shipyards around Earth, the revolution continued. The newest human vessels were even smaller than before, yet more capable. Each new generation of ships proved that humanity's approach wasn't just different. It was an entirely new way of thinking about space travel. Chief Engineer Wilson's latest design just completed testing, Reed told the class. A patrol ship just 100 meters long with twice the capability of our previous models. The nano-manufacturing systems can now repair battle damage in seconds instead of minutes. The alien students furiously took notes. Their home governments were desperate for any advantage in the new age of space warfare. Some species had already started scrapping their massive warships, replacing them with smaller, more efficient vessels based on human principles. Thomas pulled up a galactic map showing trade routes. Green dots marked the positions of human patrol ships. Tiny but powerful guardians keeping the space lanes safe. The pirates aren't the only ones who've changed, he explained. Look at the commercial shipping patterns. The students watched as the map showed the evolution of cargo ships over the past year. The massive haulers were disappearing, replaced by smaller, faster vessels that could carry the same cargo more efficiently. Human engineering wasn't just changing military doctrine, it was transforming the entire galactic economy. And the best part, Reed added, is that we're just getting started. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to keep improving it. A message flashed on the main screen. The Grand Counselor was announcing another expansion of the Human-Led Defense Initiative. More sectors were requesting human protection, human training, and human technology. Some of you, Thomas told his students, will be the first officers from your species to command ships built on human principles. Remember what we learned from this experience. The greatest enemy of progress isn't failure. It's thinking you already know everything. Reed nodded in agreement. 1 year ago, the galaxy laughed at our tiny ships. Now they understand that humanity's greatest contribution wasn't making ships smaller, it was making them better. Outside the Academy windows, a new class of patrol ships prepared for their first mission. Each one was a marvel of engineering, a perfect blend of size and capability. They were proof that sometimes the biggest changes come in the smallest packages. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had been planning all along.